So enough with the opposition, so much details and perspectives in terms of how you see them. Let's look into Zanu PF in its current state. What would you say?
So Zanu PF is interesting, and so two things quickly about my perspective where Zanu PF is concerned. So Zanu PF is a very strong political force when it is united, and often it is united by a common enemy outside, which traditionally has been the opposition. In this current period of our history, it's Nelson Chamisa. Prior to Nelson Chamisa, it was Morgan Tsvangirai. Prior to Morgan Tsvangirai, I mean, they would pick and choose people like Bongo, Tekere, Dabaning Stole. I mean, you can look at it in history, and Zanu PF always presents a united fighting front when they are confronted by an external enemy. But we've already said that there is no external enemy at this particular point in time. And I think that creates opportunities for Zanu PF to be able to fight itself. And I think that, these perceptions of opposition weakness, of civil society absence, have allowed Zanu PF the opportunity to take a look at itself and give us interesting political episodes, some which we have called factionalism, some which we have called succession battles and stuff. But the bottom line is that at this particular point in time, I don't think that Zanu PF is as united as it usually is. With 2028 coming, and with no changes to the constitution at this particular point in time, people have begun showing interest in taking over from Emerson, and these different interests are organizing differently, recruiting differently in support of their preferred candidates to succeed Emerson, which makes for interesting fractionalized and factional politics where Zanu PF is concerned. So it's not in this political competition. I mean, it's always good, but sometimes factions, when not managed properly, can lead to the destruction of parties.
So historically, and given what we have seen precisely in 2017, would you believe that when this succession in Zanu PF, when it comes, that handing over of power to the next person, will it gonna be peaceful? Because what we saw in 2017, we saw some people fleeing the country, and some have never stepped back again. There were reports of some people who were killed, who died in the process. Would you see it as a peaceful transfer of power, or peaceful transition, that succession battle that is always looming with the 28 elections coming and the 23rd narrative being built to support the president to extend beyond his term limit?
So there are different ways of looking at this. I think whether or not the transition will be peaceful is in part depends on what Emerson Mnangagwa does. And so far he has said that he's not interested in extending his term, that he's going to persuade the persuaders, that he's a constitutionalist and will not run again. If he is true to his word, then the possibilities of a peaceful transition become real. I don't want to say high, but they become real. And what we begin looking at, what we then have to look at is internal competition to succeed in Zanu PF.
But do you personally believe in the president's word?
Well, so as an optimist, I want to believe him. I want to believe that he's a constitutionalist. I want to believe he's not going to seek a third term and so on and so forth. But what I want to believe and what history teaches us are totally different things. The president has a reputation for being an astute strategist, but also a very, very devious character. I mean, you have to go back to Cholocho to recall that people who were organizing for him to take over were punished and some thrown out of Zanu PF. And he came and said, no, I had nothing to do with those people and so on and so forth. But they were initially... Yes, yet they were organizing for him. Even in the run-up to 2017, when Mugabe and his wife were castigating these people, he would say, I know nothing about Lacoste and stuff like that. So it's very difficult difficult to take the president on his word. I want to believe that, he has said it on several occasions. I think he said it here. I think there was a ZBC interview. He has said it with Amanpo. He has said it to another international news outlet. And as people who are not in his head and not in the cockpit of Zanu PF, all we have to go with are his words. And his words are that he is not running. So if, from an accountability perspective, if I want to hold Emmerson Mnangagwa accountable, I will hold him accountable based on his words and how they vary from the actions that it takes. This is not to say that what he's saying is necessarily the truth. We know that there is a concerted push for him to either extend his term to 2030 or to go for a third term, which has been met with technical difficulties. But Zanu PF was pushing that agenda. We know that they have a resolution from the last conference around that. And politicians are servants of the people, or ideally should be servants of the people. And, you can then say, the people have said, who am I to refuse? The voice of the people is the voice of God. So who are you to defy God's voice? So it's interesting to see what happens where that particular question is concerned. But a lot of it hinges on the unique leadership moment that this whole conversation presents for Emmerson Mnangagwa. He has an opportunity to institute meaningful, peaceful transfers of power in this country. We have not seen that. We know that the takeover from Mugabe was not necessarily peaceful. The army had to step in. He has an opportunity to institute handover of power in democratic ways through electoral processes within his party and at a national level.
And as a student of political science, you mentioned that that's the area that you specialized in, that you trained in. Do you think that the factionalism in Zanu PF is something that is imagined, or it is something that is real? And as you read newspapers and what is posted on social media and so forth, and if you're also following the expelled Zanu PF Central Committee comrade, Mr. Blessed Geza, we pretty much point to the effect that the president and his deputy, they must be leading different functions. Do you think that this factionalism is imagined, or it is something that is real?
So first and foremost, factions are a reality of politics and of political parties. I think invariably every political party has got factions. When people campaign for different positions within the political party, if the position is contested, then you can be sure that people belong to different factions. What we have seen in Zimbabwe is the poor management of factionalism. Otherwise, it's a reality. It's there. Unfortunately, in our case, it can lead to bloodletting. It can lead to coups and stuff like that. So this is my long way of saying that the factions in Zanu PF are not imagined. They are not imagined. They are real. They are there. People back different people. During ordinary days, people take direction and wisdom and counsel from perceived faction leaders. And when it comes to leadership contests and the possibility of succession, people will also back different people for that particular thing. So they are not imagined. They are real. Now, what is the import of these factions? How serious are the reactions between the president and his deputy based on what we have been hearing? I think that's an open empirical question that I, as a person who is not in Zanu PF myself, I may be unable to answer. But we have seen how relations between the president and his deputy, if not managed properly in terms of these factional contests, can lead to fundamental changes. Like changes at the top. We have seen that in 2017, challenges between Emmerson and his principal at that time, Robert Mugabe, led to Robert Mugabe being thrown out.
Can that scenario potentially return?
I think it's a possibility. It's a possibility, and it's an unfortunate possibility, because what we instituted in 2017 is a process of changeover of leadership in the country and in the party by force. Yeah, which is why I said that this is an interesting and important leadership moment for Emmerson Mnangagwa. He can change this culture. He can demonstrate by his actions that you don't have to get power by grabbing it. it can be given to you, and when your time to go comes, you go and stuff like that. He has the chance to institute a new political culture, not just in Zanu PF, but in the country. The big question is he going to take advantage of that leadership moment that this moment presents him?
And what are the consequences now? Because if the Zanu PF, which formed the government of the day-to-day, is pretty much locked in a succession battle, as we are seeing, what are the implications? What are we likely to suffer as a country?
Well, a lot. I think perhaps now we're in 2025 and perhaps getting into 2026, we might not suffer as much. But as we get closer to 2028, if there is an intensification of the factional challenges within the party, if they have not resolved how they are going to deal with the succession issue, then there's a wide variety of implications for the country. Number one, development and progress will not take place because people will be defending factional interests. One faction will not want another faction to appear as if it is succeeding and is being developmental in ways that can end the admiration and support of the people, so they will frustrate those particular plans. So the issue of gridlock that we talked about at the beginning becomes a real factor in terms of government business itself, and that's an unfortunate situation for the country. Number two, there is I call this political opportunity structures that have got the chance. At the moment, we are living relatively peacefully as a country. Of course, we've got a lot of social tensions, and some would characterize it as negative peace. But there is no out and out confrontation in this country at this particular point in time. These people who are presiding over the state have got different claims to the army, to intelligence agencies and stuff like that. And if their disagreements become so huge and large, it's possible for us to have a situation like what is happening in Sudan, where different elements of the state take up arms and begin to fight each other before we even talk about the people. And that's not a good thing to happen. And that danger is there. You know, our vice president, at least one of them, is from that tradition where all his life he was a military man. And I think he's still learning the culture of debate and dialogue. I'm not sure to what extent he has mastered it and whether he can resist the temptation of fighting when there are disagreements. So that is a real political threat that is there. On the other hand, the incumbent also prides himself with a rich tradition in the liberation struggle, claims to control some elements of the military. We saw him making changes in what some perceived as coup-proofing after he got into power. So he's got some nodes that he believes he controls as well. Kembo Mohadi, for many years, presided over the Ministry of Home Affairs, which houses the police and some intelligence forces. If these people do not agree, I shudder to think what can happen. But beyond the three people, I mean, you've got other people with lots of money, some of them with lots of organizing skills, who have got the potential to cause serious trouble with implications for us at a national level. One of arguably the richest men in the country, Tagwire, there are allusions that he has got pretensions towards power himself. We don't know the capacity and capability of that man to be able to organize, or at least to buy support, or to buy ways that can cause trouble for those who are in power at this particular point in time. And then many other interests. So a lot really, again, depends on how, on whether or not Emmerson Mnangagwa embraces this opportunity that is there to set a new culture. Otherwise, we can be in trouble as a nation.
And what are the permutations from your observations? The chances for the vice president maybe to take over as the president, from your observations, what are the permutations? What could do? Block him? Should you consider Tagwire as a serious contestant in this succession issue?
Yeah, so I have to be honest with you. I don't support Zanu PF.
I want you to share observations.
Yes, I'm precasing my observation by saying that I do not support Zanu PF, and I am not a member of Zanu PF. The question around who takes over from Emmerson Mnangagwa is a question that Zanu PF has to answer. What I would like to see as a Democrat is a democratic process that allows anyone who is interested to take over from Emmerson Mnangagwa in that party engaging in a contest contest where the party chooses a successor for its current leader. That is their business. I will then begin to answer that question when it comes to the national space. Who is supposed to be president of this country? That's where I begin to engage with that particular question. But as a Democrat, I believe that democratic processes must be instituted. I don't think that people must be vilified for wanting to preside over the party or even the country. Tagwire, just like Chiwenga, has got equal rights to the leadership of the party, and if we so deem it, to the leadership of the country, they must be allowed to contest democratically within their party to choose a successor to Emerson.
Part of your professional work really have been advancing transparency and the issues of anti-corruption and so forth through various projects, even including the Integrity Icon. We're going to discuss that at length. But I just want to see how you relate with the Vice President's message of anti-corruption, attacking corruption at every opportunity that he gets to do the public address.
Yeah, well, I think that the rhetoric is perfect. It's good. I think that that's what anyone, especially myself, would like to hear from my leaders. I think that people must climb on top of mountains to castigate corruption and do what they can from their positions to fight it. So General Chiwenga has been saying the right things. Part of what I find disturbing is the inability of the state to do anything about, to do much about the situation where corruption is concerned. When one of the highest ranking members of our society is busy castigating it. So there is incongruence between what we are hearing from one of the leaders of government and what the government in turn does. But otherwise, I think we welcome the rhetoric. Any action has to start with words, and at the moment, the general is saying the right words. But a man of words without deeds is like a garden full of weeds. No one needs that kind of a man. So if we are to take General Chiwenga seriously, and if he is serious about the things that he is saying, then we also expect to see action on the part of the state that he presides over in dealing with these egregious corruption cases that he has been lamenting.
You are exactly saying the very right things pertaining to what I've been observing on social media, because people have been also saying, is he the right person maybe to lead the anti-corruption gospel, because he belongs to a party and a government that have been always implicated in corruption. The effect that government states themselves, government officials would themselves admitting that we are losing plus or minus $2 billion annually. Is he then be the right person who can be a towering figure in terms of fighting corruption, or is simply using that as his political interest?
Yeah, well, to say that he must not lead the country, or is not the right person to be leading this charge because he belongs to a party that has been presiding over corruption is a bit minimalist. By that standard, no one should lead this country. No one is an ideal candidate. Chamisa was presiding over an opposition political party where a broad range of councillors across different cities were involved in corruption and so on and so forth. Ultimately, I think that we must make a few admissions. Number one, corruption is rampant in this country, and the different political organizations that we have in this country have been complicit in these corrupt activities. I think it is a good thing when someone stands up from the opposition and says, no, I'm against this, regardless of the fact that they belong to an institution that has been doing it. And that's the same with Chiwenga. I don't think that it necessarily disqualifies him. If we want to disqualify him, then we need to look at his personal track record. He has been in government now since 2017, so I think about 6 or so years, or 7, I don't know. Whatever his record has been in government is what we use against him. But we can also look at his record as an army general. You know, if we have evidence, so there are allegations that these people who were in the military, with Emerson Mnangagwa, the current president, being complicit, engaged in a wide range of looting activities in the DRC, for instance. We know that the military, historically, has had commercial interests. We need to question those things. To how were they accessing opportunities? Were they not doing so in corrupt fashions and stuff? If we want to create a record for Chiwenga, but we simply can't dismiss him on account of belonging to an organization that has been presiding over corruption, because there is no organization at this particular point in time, politically, that has not been embroiled in corruption, be it Zanu PF, be it CCC, be it different formations of the MDC, and even the NCA and stuff. You can be able to point to instances where some of their officials, or even as organizations, they have engaged in things that we call corrupt. This is not a good place for us to be as a country. We are having to choose between the better of or the lesser devil amongst various devils. But that is the situation that we find ourselves in, and unfortunately the yardstick that we have to use to measure. Unless people like you, Costa, rise up and form movements that are not soiled by history and who have made up of people who have not been implicated in corrupt activities.
Yeah, we'll consider that. But I wanted to ask you something. What is your appreciation of the Gananda narrative that is being built? I should add that we see one of these people assumed to be belong to the Gananda category, dishing out cars daily, cash, and so forth, and stuff. What is the appreciation of this narrative?
Yeah, like I said, I think that this is the Vice President's narrative, and it's a narrative that is very resonant with me and with a lot of people. I think that it's unfortunate when, as a country, we find ourselves in situations where individuals with unexplained sources of wealth are celebrated or even engage in charity. I think it's a simple issue around being open and transparent. I know, that the easiest example is one around Wicknell. Wicknell clearly is very generous, clearly has given a lot of people cars and cash and stuff like that. But the fundamental question is, these things that he is distributing, where is he actually getting them from? Is it not just our money acquired through corrupt fashions that is being selectively redistributed to a few people? And as a society, we must not celebrate that. If the resources were meant to benefit all of us as a country, then we need to see them doing that, rather than for someone to take them and then pick and choose who they are going to exercise charity on. So I am in total agreement with this Gananda narrative. I think that a modern society and a democratic one should not have a place for people like that. And I think that those are some of the things that we need to correct in our country, regardless of who is presiding over the state. People need to be transparent about where their wealth is coming from. Businessmen, if they are to inspire young people and citizens in general, it must be known what kind of business they are engaged in, so that we know what we are admiring. I always tell people that we cannot be, we should not encourage people to celebrate results and try to emulate results without knowing the work that has gone into the process of those particular results. It's the same here. Whether it's Wicknell, I also saw someone else who is now in the habit of donating cars and lots of money. I think he's a presidential advisor for international investment, or in Dubai or something like that. Again, where is the money coming from? You cannot just image tomorrow Costa just starts distributing without any history. We need to know where your money is coming from, so that you can be an example to other people. You cannot just be an example in dishing out wealth that may be illicitly acquired. What kind of example are we setting for the young people and the next generations?
I know at Accountability you used to have the integrity icon, where you were promoting and trying to motivate particularly people from the public service to conduct themselves in a transparent way, in a way to reduce corruption cases and so forth. To conduct themselves in an integrated way. How has that been programmed? How do you say, how is it traversed? How is it worked? from your side in trying to do that and cultivate that sense of transparency and integrity?
So yeah, no, you're right, Costa. And I think at the heart of what we have been trying to do at Accountability Lab is a concept called positive narrative building, and also focusing on positive deviance. Positive narrative building is almost something that it's an approach that allows us to be able to appreciate the good that is happening within our societies instead of just focusing on the bad. You know, the bad stuff. You know, this is the danger of anti-corruption work, because if you are harping on and on about the challenges, how corruption is widespread and how everyone is doing it, you are unlikely to encourage other people to fight corruption. People become defeated. If everyone is doing it, who am I not to engage and stuff like that? And that's part of the narrative that we're trying to deal with. We don't believe that corruption is insurmountable. And we believe that there are people right now who are engaged in government and other spaces who are not for corruption, and they've been conducting themselves in ways that show that they are not. Instead of just naming and shaming those who are doing bad, we believe that there is space in our society, especially from a mobilization and organizing perspective, for us to celebrate, name, fame, and glamorize those who are doing well, so that people can see that there are other people who are fighting, and encourage other people to begin to conduct themselves in the same way. I was referencing, examples to the next generation in the last question that you asked. Part of what we are trying to do is to model the kind of behavior that we expect to see where public accountability, public institutions, and public services is concerned, as a way of trying to inspire the next generation of public servants in this country so that they can be able to do things well. Granted, it has not been easy. Zimbabwe is a very tough situation, and citizens in general believe that the entire civil service is corrupt. So it's not a very easy campaign to run, the one that you referenced. But I'm glad that over the course of the last 5 years, there is no year that we have failed to identify at least 5 people that communities believe are icons of integrity. So this is a community-driven thing. It's not McDonald saying this one, that one, and that one. It's communities nominating and saying, we have seen through our engagements and interaction with this person that this person deserves to be an integrity icon. And so far, we have been successful in doing that. So there is hope for Zimbabwe. There is hope for the public service. All we need to do is to continue putting our heads down, doing the work, and continuing to build the culture.
And what is the response? You have already highlighted that there seem to be a constant tag on anyone who is working in government to say they are corrupt people. But what is some of the response that they are getting from the citizens and even the people who are part and parcel of the Integrity Icon program?
Well, the response has been fabulous across the board, both with regards to the public service itself and with regards to citizens. As I said, Integrity Icon is a citizen-driven campaign. So without the citizens nominating people to be icons, there is no campaign that you can have. So it shows you that there is a certain appreciation amongst the citizens for what we are trying to do, and a belief in this positive deviance approach. There are people who are positive deviants. The community see it and they appreciate it. So the response has been positive where that is concerned. Another place that I would like to quickly reflect on is on the integrity icons themselves. When you're trying to do the right thing and you are slaving away doing the right thing and no one seems to notice, it's very easy for you to get discouraged. What this campaign has been able to do is to strengthen the resolve of those who believe in doing the right thing the right way to continue doing so.
And that there's a reward for that.
Yeah, there is a reward for it, there is celebration for it, there's acknowledgement for it. And I think that has been positive. It has inspired many other people to come out of the woodwork. Of course, we cannot celebrate everyone at the end of the day, but we hope that amongst themselves and generally there is a community that is building up of people who value operating with integrity within the public service, with the intention of ensuring that we eradicate institutionalized forms of corruption where the public service is concerned, that there is public accountability, and that we are beginning to build a nation in the mode of what we want to see by way of showcasing the examples. Then the state, again, so we struggled during the first year or two getting government to understand what we were trying to do. I mean, I am from Accountability Lab, and the name may force people to wonder who you want to hold accountable, how you want to do that. And outside that, I mean, I have been involved in civil society for a long time, and I've got my own history, which makes government suspicious around what I was trying to do and stuff like that. But after some time, we were able to sensitize them properly. We were able to partner with the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, get acknowledgements of the work that we were doing from the Ministry of Home Affairs. For instance, after we had honored some people from the Registrar General's office and the Civil Registry, it has been the same with the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health. So it's building up work. It's work that supports the government and tries to. It's not just about fighting the government and saying that they are corrupt. This is what they are doing wrong. I think that there's a place for that in our society, and where we need to do it, we will do it. But where there is something to be appreciated and good things that are being done, we will also be in place to appreciate those things and support the civil service to become better than it is now in terms of operating with integrity.
We are approaching the end of our interview, but maybe before that, I want us to locate a very critical constituency in this interview, the citizens. From what we have discussed earlier, but the fragmentation or the death of the opposition, the factionalism and succession politics in Zanu PF. We have got the Integrity Icon program doing what it can in terms of promoting integrity in as far as the public service people are concerned. Where exactly do we locate these citizens, especially within the politics of the day? Where do we see them? How should they conduct themselves? What should they expect? They seem to be caught in the middle of nowhere. Nowhere to turn to. They're hopeless and so forth.
No, I totally understand what you're saying and sympathize and empathize with the situation of citizens, of us as citizens, because I am in that category that you have placed on the table. But having said that, I think that part of the challenge that we have as citizens in Zimbabwe is this infatuation with waiting for a messiah to come and save us. I think that sooner rather than later, we have to appreciate that no one is coming to save us. Not opposition political parties, not ruling parties, not civil society. It is our responsibility as citizens to ensure our own emancipation and to do what can save us well. Organizations like Accountability Lab are there to try to facilitate that process and serve people in that respect. When you look at our mission is making governance work for the people through an empowered citizenry, responsible and responsive leaders, and leading to accountable institution. So we do try to work across the board with the civil service or public services, you have mentioned, through the Integrity Icon campaign, but we also try to empower citizens through a wide range of activities that we do that include youth-centered campaigns like the Voice to Rap music competition, an accountability film fellowship that we run, an accountability incubator which we also run, where we try to find young people with interesting ideas around accountability and support them on their journey around that particular work. So a lot of citizen-driven initiatives, and it is about their agency. We have the power. You know, when people say Mnangagwa, it's not just a slogan. It is a reality. But half the time, people do not realize that. People believe that power is in the hands of and belongs to people that we have elected. But those people are our agents as citizens. They need to do what we tell them to do because we are the bosses.
We can fire them at any point.
We should be able to fire them. We should be able to fire them. But I don't think that we realize the extent of our power and have not fully embraced the agency that we have and the ability to change things that we possess. So we just need to challenge ourselves as citizens, self-organize if necessary. Not everyone has to belong to a political party. Actually, I don't belong to any political party. So if you think that political parties are who represents the people of Zimbabwe, you will be leaving out a lot of people like myself from that. So civil society has a role to play. Self-organizing as citizens has a role to play at a community level, at a family level, and so on and so forth. So we need to really embrace the challenge and take the power back into our own hands, be masters of our own destinies, and organize ourselves as citizens.
Yeah, that was detailed, Dr. Lewanika. We have come to the end of our interview. I just want to give you an opportunity to share your parting shots to our viewers. You could have something that we didn't ask, or you simply want to summarize your points and everything else that you have been sharing, that you've been talking to us.
Yeah, no, I mean, interesting conversation. Thanks a lot, Costa, again for inviting me to be part of this program. I don't think that there is anything that I can say that is fundamentally or radically different from what I've already shared. And I'm not going to attempt to summarize any of them. I think those are interesting political conversations where I was just sharing my perspective. The important bit for me is the bit that we begin to touch on towards the end, and the responsibility and role of citizens in their own emancipation. And if I am to reiterate any message, it would be the one that I shared in the last point, that people need to realize that, elected officials especially, and people in political parties, due to the politics of representation, work for the people that they represent, not the other way around. They do not have power, they have authority that we have invested in them, but they need to be accountable to us. In order for them to be accountable to us, as citizens, we need to be able to question them. So let's do what we can to question those that we have entrusted with responsibilities where the state and other public institutions are concerned. Let us embrace the reality that we have power as citizens and can be able to do amazing things once we make that realization. We have agency as citizens, and once we start self-organizing, we can be able to make things better for ourselves. Politicians will not act of their own volition. We need to demand action as citizens and hold them accountable when they refuse to act.
Dr. Lewanika, it was nice talking to you.
Pleasure.
There you have heard it from a veteran in the civil society space. Dr. McDonald Lewanika was sharing his perspectives, his observations, his opinions in terms of the state of the opposition, the state of Zanu PF factionalism, and how then the citizens can be motivated and take charge of their destiny and stand up and make their voices count. Thank you very much for following this program. I'm Costa and I'm signing out. This is The Big Talk. Until next time.